Hey, welcome to Just Giulia's Day Off. Today we're making a really simple and easy Italian recipe, bruschetta, and we're going to be doing it 3 different ways. We're going to be using 2 different types of bread today, a classic baguette and then a really tasty fig and anise. So when you're choosing a bread for a bruschetta, you really want to make sure you use a bread that's nice and strong, so you can even use some stale bread, which is actually how this recipe came about. It was to utilize stale bread that was left over in the home. Okay, the barbecue is preheated to about a medium heat. We're going to lightly grill these and then rub it with some garlic and olive oil. The fig and anise bread, I'm going to toast in a pan with some olive oil. If you're using breads that have additions like nuts or olives or dried fruit, it's a lot better to toast them in a pan because then the insides won't burn. We are starting with the classic tomato and basil, and today I'm using little baby grape tomatoes. You can use any type of tomatoes that you'd like. If you're using a tomato that's a little bit bigger than a cherry or grape size, you want to squeeze out the juices and the seeds. So I'm gonna use about a pint of these little grape tomatoes. So there's a little bit of controversy about the pronunciation of this dish. A lot of people say bruschetta, which is what I say, but Italians like to call it bruschetta, bruschetta. Now for the shallot, you can use a red onion in here or yellow or white. I like using shallots just because they're a little bit sweeter. So we're gonna do a really fine dice. Just like you would cut an onion, you're gonna do slices, then you're gonna go right across. This is gonna get you nice uniform pieces of shallot. Now we have our basil. So this is really important that you use nice, fresh basil. When you're cutting herbs, you want to make sure you don't bruise them because they won't taste as great, they'll be a little bit bitter, and they won't look very nice. So what you want to do is grab your leaves and kind of stack them up like that, and then roll them like a little cigar, and just slice them. So you get a really, really fine chiffonade. 1 clove of garlic. To peel the garlic, you're going to cut that little knob off the end, lay it flat, and then you're just going to crush it. Whoops! So just give the garlic a nice little slice. You don't want to get a piece of like huge garlic when you're eating your bruschetta, so make sure the garlic is really nice and fine, almost like a little garlic paste. Lastly, we're going to season with some pepper. And then some salt. So you want to be really generous with the salt. I'd say almost about a tablespoon, just because the tomatoes have so much water in them. And then a little bit of olive oil. That's looking really pretty. And then we're gonna give that a stir. And now it's time for the butternut squash. What you're gonna wanna do is peel this. So doing it all in one piece is a little bit easier as opposed to cutting it in half. You can use any type of squash that you'd like. So all of the seeds are in this area down here. So you're gonna wanna cut it in half and then take out those seeds just using a tablespoon. 1 squash will be enough for probably like 4 to 6 people because we're gonna chop this up super small. Once they're in slices, we're gonna cut them into rods and then teeny tiny little cubes. Those are gonna go on your baking sheet. To the squash, we're going to add some thyme, very classic pairing, especially for fall, and then some salt and pepper, and then a generous drizzle of extra virgin olive oil. And now this is going into a preheated oven at 350 for about 40 minutes. Now for the apple bruschetta. We're using inorganic ambrosia, and we're just going to slice it up into quarters. So then you're just going to slice them in nice thin slices because we're going to fan them on top of the bruschetta. This is something you want to do right before you're ready to serve because the apples will oxidize. So for the apple bruschetta, we're going to be using a brie cheese, which is just such a nice pairing. That creaminess really goes well with the tartness of the apple. So we'll probably use like half of a wheel and then just slicing also, so about slices like that. Okay, so now let's put everything together. As the last touch to our baguette, we're going to rub with garlic and then drizzle with olive oil. We're going to spoon our bruschetta mixture right on top. Okay, those look fantastic. Now time for our seasonal selection. We're going to spread half of the fig and anise toasted bread with our goat cheese. Then we're gonna go right on top with our squash, our roasted squash. Oh man, this smells so good. That thyme is really coming through. Now for the last one, we're going to do our brie and apples. We're just gonna put a piece of the brie down. Then we're going to get our apple fans. It's like a little brie surprise. Your guests will be like, oh my God, I thought it was just apples. Then we're going to drizzle with honey. As a final touch, I'm gonna crunch some pecans right on top. Now it's time to plate. We're going to plate these up on this tiered pedestal. And I'm going to decorate the pedestal with some greenery. So I've got these little stems here, which I'm just going to place. Now we're going to simply place the bruschetta in and around the greens. Now we're going to decorate with a couple of seasonal gooseberries. Okay, how we look. I think that looks pretty delicious. You know what I think this needs? A little cocktail. To pair with the bruschetta, we're making a cranberry Aperol Spritz. Now, a Spritz is the perfect cocktail to pair with this because it's an aperitivo, which means you drink it with a small snack before dinner. This is such a popular cocktail in Italy. So this is the Aperol that we're using. We're gonna use about an ounce. And I'm just gonna eyeball because I never measure anything. And then we are going to add a little bit of cranberry, so about an ounce of cranberry. And then that gets topped with Prosecco. Prosecco or any type of sparkling white. So refreshing. And then we're going to add a couple of frozen cranberries because it's the season. Any type of frozen fruit is such a great garnish because it keeps your cocktail cold and it looks delicious. This drink is always served with a slice of orange. So I'm just gonna put an orange right in there. And there you go, your cranberry Aperol Spritz.